Hi. Okay, we're back on. We're back to, or moving forward to episode 16 now. I think the last one I was talking about the some of the daft shenanigans we got up to in Monaco and Germany at a test and what have you. Um, but anyway, we get back to the UK, and I said in an earlier episode, I was actually living in a house with Nick Worth, who was working hard alongside all the design team and Adrian Newey, working on the aerodynamics of the car. But Nick, I think, was looking. I can't remember now, but he was looking to sell his house or something. So I was talking to one of the other mechanics, and he lived just up the road from the Leighton House factory, and that was one of the lads that I'd worked with at Middlebridge on the Trossardi program, and that was Carlos Nunes. And Carlos, he was a lovely guy, and it was very kind of him and Kim to let me sort of stay at their house for a while. Carlos he'd come out of I think Formula 3000 racing or Formula 3, and then he was at Leighton House. Went on to Benetton, and he worked with Michael Schumacher through a lot of the good years. Headed up the test team, and these days he runs the paddock for Formula E. So he's got off the tools, and he's moved up the ladder a little bit, but he's a good guy, Carlos. But no, it was always a place to get my head down and to save driving back up to the Midlands. But working on the trucks, we were very rarely in the country, if the truth's known, because I was on the test team and we were doing a lot of testing. But then I'd started to go to one or two races as well. And one of the first races that I did really was the French Grand Prix, which there's probably nothing to report down there really, apart from we stayed in a beautiful little place down on the coast called Bandol. And if you've ever been down that part of the world, I mean, Bandol in the summer on the sort of like the French Riviera, and it's absolutely beautiful down there. And again, we were very lucky that we were able to stay in some good places. It was and once again we had a lot of fun down there. I think one of the times once we were all sat outside this bar, and we'd had plenty to drink, and one or two started mucking about. Anyway, there was a bit of a sea wall or something, or down to the beach, and one of our guys, he decided to, Big Marcus, he was a big heavy lad, and he kind of rugby tackled a lad called Rob Arnott, who was our electrician, and he went over this sea wall like on a rugby tackle, thinking it was probably about 3 foot or something like that. It wasn't. It was probably about 8 or 9, 10 foot down, and they crashed down onto one another. And well, lucky they weren't hurt really, but they were probably suitably anaesthetised, if the truth. Mind you say that Marcus didn't drink, but anyway, it was one of those daft things again. But the season carried on, and I think we did the French Grand Prix. We came back. I think we probably went off to another test somewhere. It could have been Imola or what have you. But then we were coming back. Then it was for the British Grand Prix. Again, probably nothing really to report on that one. You can tell my usual interest in a lot of these things. Cars went round and round, flag dropped, and we packed up and we went off to the next one. But I'm just looking at one or two of the notes here. I mean, I think the following race after that was at Hungary. I've said in a previous episode that with Goodyear, we were the first truck into Budapest back in 1986, and it was a fabulous place. I wasn't involved in '87, but back to Hungary this time, and it was just as good. I mean, that place is really fabulous. But what we'd noticed as well was it was still behind the Iron Curtain as such, but it was starting to get a lot more westernised. And whereas before you would walk down the street in Budapest and you could see all the shops and everything, but they'd got things in the windows, but there was very little inside the shops. But it's a stunning place, and once again, I mean, we stopped in some really nice hotels there, and the race, I don't remember too much about the race. I do remember I'd just bought a brand new pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, and I went out to set up all the screens on the pit wall. Put these sunglasses down on the pit wall, turned round, went back to get something out of the garage. I came back and wallop, they'd gone. So some Hungarian was walking around in a brand new pair of Ray-Bans that I think I'd only bought them about 2 days before in Austria, but there you go. I think one of the next races we did, I mean, I won't go through the whole season, but this one was quite memorable for a few reasons really, and this was in Monza, and everybody knows that Monza is Ferrari country. They're absolutely mad over there, all the Tifosi and everything. And what used to happen was all of the stands, tribunes as they call them over there, used to get absolutely full of the Tifosi, all the Ferrari fans, and they would start getting in there and claiming their spot from Wednesday night, and they would stay there through Wednesday night, Thursday night. The cars would be running on Friday, but they just kept their spot all of the time. Well, we'd qualified. I think Capelli, Ivan Capelli, had qualified 11th on the grid, and we were doing the late night setup at the back of the garage. And what he used to have to do was the car would be wheeled onto this flat patch. It was called. It was like an aluminium patch with corner weight scales in it. So you'd got 4 scales. So that what happened was all the adjustments were made on the car, so that all of the ride heights and all of the car's setup. I won't go into all of the the technicalities. One thing I don't know too much about them, and the other thing, I'll just talk in layman's terms about it. But one of the things you had to do was you had to have the weight of the car, because you'd put a full fuel load in it. You'd fill it up with fuel, and I think at the time the weight limit was 540 kilos or something like that. But you had to have a driver in there as well, and I was the same weight as Capelli. So they used to often sit me in the car while the mechanics did all of the setup. Well, on this particular Saturday night, it was just taking a long time to get all this setup done. And I was actually in that car for 4 hours, from 7 o'clock till 11 or whatever it was like that. And how the cars were set up as well. There's a bar that fits across the front. You take the nose off the car, and on the front of the bulkhead they used to put a bar on the front, and the same on the rear wing mounting brackets on the back of the gearbox. And then you'd run a fishing line all down there, down either side, and then the caster camber and everything of the wheels would be all lined up. And what they used to do was measure it off with a ruler and against his fishing line. And Adrian Newey and the other engineers, they came out and they were trying to find minute differences on the setup, and also to try and get all the corner weights exactly equal across the car, front to rear, everything like that. So I'm sat in this car for 4 hours, and one of the engineers actually said to me, he said, Ed, he says, are you sat at squaring the car? I said, yes. He says, can you get your arms square in the car? I said, yes. And he said, and which side do you dress? I says, I don't think, Tim, that would make a whole lot of difference to the corner weights on the car. So we had a smile about that. But anyway, so 4 hours I was there. Well, we went back into the garage, and all of these fans are making one hell of a noise at the back of the you know, in the stand opposite to us. So we'd got a Kiwi guy, lad from New Zealand called Skippy, and he was a great character. But as we were sort of finishing, pretty well finishing for the night, all of these fans were cheering, and of course if you get a Ferrari driver come out in the pit lane, they're all cheering, or an Italian driver for one of the other teams, you know, even people like Ginzani or whoever, Larini, or people like these from smaller teams, they would get a big cheer. But Skippy decided that it would be a good idea to go up on the pit wall, drop his trousers and bare his arse at them. Well, that was one hell of a move that he made. And suddenly there was an incredible array of coins flying over, and they were, you know, we were getting hit from them, and Skippy sort of retreated into the garage, and we pulled the garage doors down, and these coins were just rattling against the garage door, big style. And I suggested, actually, I said, just for a bit of fun, I said, how about we set fire to a Ferrari flag in the pit lane? Let's see what reaction that gets.